Hey, everybody. I want to welcome you to another fine episode of Sold Separately. We are covering a very unique line. It is Series 4 of Epic Toys Wrestling Megastars, and it's an eclectic group. And to cover an eclectic group, I need my eclectic co-host. Clark, how you doing?
I'm fired up to be here. We've got so many sweet wrestlers on this one. A lot of WCW vibes here, which I always love. But we've got just wrestling history on tap, and I'm stoked to get into it.
Yeah, so let's start with the Barbarian. You could see the high detailed aspect to this. I think there are between 4 and 6 inch figures. I don't think they're typical Mattel or Jazzware size. So I do think they're a little bit smaller because I don't have any of the Epic Toy ones. But they've just released the images for their Series 4, and obviously the Barbarian, famously one of the tougher guys in wrestling, famous with Haku was a tag partner, and it's just a really cool likeness, and it's very Barbarian Viking-esque, don't you think, Clark?
Oh, 100%. One thing I gotta say really quickly, I love the Barbarian. And I love Mang.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first times I ever distinctly remember really making my dad laugh. You've seen The Sandlot, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're killing me,
Sultan
Smalls.
of SWAT, when you're doing all of that, the Babe Ruth stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I basically quoted the movie, but when it was Barbarian and Mang coming out on WCW, I looked at my dad and said, "It's the faces of fear." And I'd said it in the voice. And it's one of my fondest childhood memories of watching pro wrestling. The Barbarian's such an underrated performer.
Yeah.
Mang, ultimate tough guy. This is a great likeness. This is really cool. If you're an old school collector, this one makes perfect sense because it does look like it comes from that time,
I
that
love
era, and I
the
enjoy it.
detail of like the three
Yeah,
little hairs at the top of the head and in the skull and the belt. Like, it's just an awesome line that Epic Toys is making now.
very
Uh,
cool.
so the next one up, Dr. Death Steve Williams, somebody that from Mid South past and Japan is really the bulk of his career. But I think anybody in their 30s and up probably remember him from the WWF and WCW runs,
And New
which was
Japan as
very
well,
much
or
on the
all
on the
Japan.
tail end. Yes. He was brought into WWF as part of, he was JR's legitimate friend, and they tried to bring him in for the Brawl for All, and the intention was, oh well, Dr. Death's a tough guy. Dr. Death can win this shoot tournament, and he did not. And his career never really recovered in WWF, and then he was brought into WCW as Oklahoma's bodyguard, I think, for a short time,
Yeah.
which was the knock at JR that Ed Ferrar did. But this has a really cool details. The boots, you can see the little flames, you can see the skull and the death, and it looks like he comes with like a robe, which is iconic. And I don't think he's had a lot of figures, so this is kind of a really cool prime Dr. Death figure.
I enjoy the figure a bunch. I mean, I got to shout out Carter, our only fellow Sooner, Oklahoma Sooner here
Mm-hmm.
at WR. When it comes to this one, yeah, OU wrestling, no doubt about it. Like you mentioned, legitimate real life friendship with Jim Ross. Never reached the heights people anticipated in
Mm-hmm.
WWE, but a heck of a performer and a heck of a grappler in
Yeah.
his own right. Unbelievable history at Oklahoma, and just a cool guy to have in this set. It's a very well done figure and an awesome likeness, and with the essentially the boxing robe too, I think
Yeah.
is a great accessory.
Yeah. I mean, one of the legit tough guys in this business. And when you talk about legit tough guys, you can't go much further than Barry Windham,
Yep.
iconic member of the Four Horsemen. Ric Flair has gone on record and said the version that of the Horsemen with him in it was the best version in his opinion. And, Barry was not a part of the original Horsemen. It was Ole, Arn, JJ, Tully, and Flair. But essentially, Barry took Ole's spot. And like I said, Flair acknowledges that as the best Hall of Famer, uncle of
Of Bray.
Bray and Bo Dallas, and just one of the legit best performers that's ever been in this business.
Unbelievable. Like, this is such a cool likeness too. And the black glove,
Yes.
the history behind the black glove, I love it. I love the likeness. The open hand image is interesting. Is that interchangeable? I didn't actually catch that.
I would assume so.
Yeah, that's kind of cool to have both.
Yes.
And the idea of the loaded punch, these are posable figures. They're not going to be the ones that you're not booking matches and playing with them necessarily.
It does have some articulation in at least in the arms, because you could see the
You
bend
can
there
move
for the
the
one arm.
arms.
Yeah. But it doesn't look like the left arm has the same articulation as the right does, which I think is interesting. Yes.
Yeah, I would agree. And I'm wondering if also that's why you're given the open palm, maybe to pose differently, and you take the right arm down potentially for a different pose. I'm not 100% sure, but I do love the figure, and Barry Windham to be in this line makes a lot of sense, and it's awesome.
I am trying to remember, Clark. Did Barry Windham do the claw? Maybe that's why they're doing the open hand.
I not so much. I think actually it was more of a pose he would do.
Okay, gotcha.
Once he would load the glove, similar to Tully. That's why I remember Tully giving the black glove to Sean Spears.
Yes.
Right. Related to this gimmick, right? When he would load the glove, it would be open as he was right, and then he would sort of close the fist and to make sure you were aware of that the glove was loaded.
Yes.
Right.
Gotcha.
That's the point. It was a cheating tactic.
Yeah.
Essentially, for lack of a better way to put it.
But yeah, great likeness for Barry
in a great way, obviously.
The main event, which we've gotten to already, is Barry's tag partner in the Horsemen, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
Yes.
Who obviously has had a lot of figures over the years, a lot of figures. For me, the huge thing with this, I think, is the robe, because it is different than any other type of robe we've seen a Flair figure come with before, with the detail, with the gold around it.
If there's a specific match that this is honoring, because the green is so unique, but I don't remember off the top of my head, and I know a lot of iconic Flair matches though where this would have been from. I agree with you on the robe. Not to cut you off there, but I'm super curious about that. That'd be something I think to look up later for sure.
I mean, I remember similar robe. I don't remember which particular match it was from. And I don't think it's the one with the lions and all that stuff, because I don't believe that's the green one. But the face, I know I've seen some people complain about the face. I think it looks like Flair. Is it more cartoonish? Yeah, but you could definitely see it in the eyes and the mouth. I do think it looks like Flair. I like the little tape around the fingers, and it's posed with like essentially him like taking the robe off, which really I don't think we've ever seen in a type of figure. And like, it's little details like the knee pads being below the knee, which for whatever reason that was a Flair thing, but the figure has captured that. Now I don't believe it looks like the rubber. I don't think you can move them up. I think they're sculpted in like all the other figures that we've seen in this line. But I think it's a great Flair to to add to a collection, to put it on a shelf. And like I said, it's one that we haven't seen. I believe Zombie Sailor is supposed to be making Flair figures as well, but we have not seen any images of that as of yet, since they made the announcement, I think over a year ago at this point.
Sounds right.
He wasn't with AEW long enough to get figures. So really the last figure that he had was WWE, and I believe it was the
Ultimate Edition. Sorry,
I think it was the pink robe
edition. Yes, the pink robe.
It was the pink robe. I think was the last big release that he had.
This is a fun one. I would love to have a strut pose.
Yeah,
this one, but you do never know. I mean, I'm all over this figure. I think it's very good. The boots are iconic with just the RF, and same with the trunks. It's all logical. It all makes sense. Even the build, obviously, it's a more cartoonish figure than normal, but it very much looks like Flair. The face scan, I'm a little unsure of, but I don't hate it.
Yeah. Speaking of that with the body, I was actually thinking that myself, because so many times we'll see the figures and they jack them up and they're more bulkier than, like, Flair never looked super jacked.
Like.
and the figure looks right, even down to like the belly button. Like
Yes.
it screams Ric Flair because it's not super jacked and it's more accurate to his body type, really.
Absolutely. I would agree 100%.
But yeah, so I think that brings us to the end here
Totally.
as we covered the epic toys, and we will be back again as we are every Friday. So we will see you guys then.
Absolutely.